Cannabis Business Minds, we train and mentor professionals, entrepreneurs, and aspiring entrepreneurs on how to confidently find their place in the legal cannabis and hemp industries. Come on and join us at cannabisbusinessminds.com. Hello, Cannabis Business Minds, and I hope you're doing well. On today's mini episode, I want to talk to you about some really interesting observations that I've been seeing as I'm focusing my strategy in a little bit of a different way that I want to share with you. Now, this is something that you can apply if you're brick and mortar, if you are a service-based business like myself, if you're online, whatever. These are basic business principles and really part of kind of strategic planning. So the first thing that I really want to talk about is, especially when we think about cannabis, is long-term versus short-term. We know, you've heard it all the time, that if you're in cannabis, you are playing a long-term game. Now, why is that? It is because if you think about it, right now you are operating in a very wonky market because it is federally illegal, meaning we don't have clear optics on supply and demand. We don't really know what a true market is going to look like. It's very insular by states. We don't see legal interstate traffic, right? And so if you think about buying a plastic widget on Amazon, well, if you're a really great vendor, let's pretend that you can only buy it in the United States and the vendors were only from the United States, you would have an opportunity to service many different customers, right? But in cannabis, we just don't have that because of the regulation and because a bigger ad is because of federal illegality. So when we think about, okay, this is a short-term versus long-term play, what happened in 2018 is that so much money came into the cannabis industry because the largest cannabis market, California, was beginning to put in legalization. We now know that media kind of definitely gives us like whoosh effect of what the cannabis industry can bring. But we also know that there's the illicit market. There's all these factors that make it a little bit harder to be super successful from a money standpoint than a lot of people originally anticipated, right? There is no get rich quick in cannabis. And if you're listening to this and you're operating, I hope you can be like, yeah, girl, duh, this is what we know. I've known this for a very long time. It's why I do what I do, because I want all of us small businesses to be successful in this space. But we have to, by doing that, we have a different strategy to deploy. So I hope that we can all agree this is not a short-term play. A short-term play, if you are looking for a short-term play in the cannabis industry, what do you think that would be? That would be potentially building something that had value to another brand or to an investor. And that value probably would not be real estate. I'm just guessing, would not probably be real estate, but it maybe an asset would be much more of a customer list or a brand or something of that, right? But that is pretty even hard to come by. I had a recent interview with a lovely transactional attorney, Charlie from Vicente Sederberg, and we talked a little bit about this. And so that he's not even seeing that in mergers and acquisitions, that much of a brand building play, right? So we already know from a short-term perspective, it's harder. So we think about, okay, well, this is a long-term game. So when we think about this is a long-term game, what then are your key performance indicators that you are going to be using and operating in your business? Again, this is going to vary brick and mortar versus, an online or service-based business. That is going to vary. But if you're thinking about, okay, well, I want to do this for 10 years, maybe I'm going to try to sell my company. Your whole game plan, your whole strategy then is going to be focused on building something that you'll be able to sell, meaning you are trying to build value, thinking about the end in sight. Well, what is that going to be? Who would want to buy that? Why would they want to buy that? And not sacrificing your short-term wealth, because it's very important that you continue to build your wealth. Your KPIs probably are just to say, you know what, I'm going to run my business at a profit. I want to grow. I'm going to be smart with my expenses and with my money. I'm going to take my owner draws, But that hockey stick growth that we saw in tech, and we saw in a lot of other kind of, when you see a lot in pitch decks, what the investor is quote unquote looking for, I think that you'd have to be honest with yourself and say, okay, you know what, my long-term play is, if it is hockey stick, is extending the years to that hockey stick. Now, the reason why, I've always known this, but the reason why I'm even having this discussion right now with y'all is because one amazing approach that you can do with your business, especially if this is product based or service based, is start building. I've talked about this a lot, about building community. That's really important. That's really necessary. But start building more authority in your niche. Now, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, how do I even do that? Well, it's just you can start very, very small and very niche within the niche of building that authority. One of the easiest ways to build authority online, to find other traffic sources and all that, is through SEO. Of course, if you're a dispensary owner and you're trying to build authority, your authority would be, or a delivery owner, your authority would be in the market that you are serving. Everybody knowing who you are, building community there, because that's a customer list. That is value. That is then also helping your brand. If you are a financial consultant working in this space, your authority would be around that specific area where you have that expertise. So let's say, saying a financial consultant, that itself really isn't that's niche enough into other consultants, but you could even dive deeper into that niche. So maybe you're a sales and use financial expert. Therefore, then you're building that authority in that niche. So the people that that are really interested in what you do and who you're serving can find you super easily. And you're building, again, your customer list, you're building brand value, and you're building authority. Authority is very important in our day and age, like it is. Now, authority, you don't have to, depending on your business type and your business model and really your revenue streams, you don't have to have thousands of people knowing you. If you've done the math and all you need is 100 customers and their annual value is, $1,500, and if that works for your business. So I think what's very liberating when we start thinking about short-term, long-term play, building authority, is that we can actually just go and do some of the math to make it a lot more easy for you as the business owner to be like, okay, yes, I feel comfortable about this. I'm still getting paid. I'm building authority. My customers love what I'm doing, or my clients love what I'm doing, and the math all makes sense. And so I hope I haven't lost you. This is where I'm like, oh, I wish we had a live session so I really could get some questions, your questions here. But I just want to give you the quick math of what I'm talking about. All right. So let's say you've now said, you know what, Simone, you're right. I am in this for the long term. I'm either going to build this as a family business, pass it on, or I'm going to be building this and I'm really going to try to exit, or, maybe merge with somebody. To me, those are kind of the logical plans that we would have for more of the long-term route. So you figure that out. Then you go and you look at your financial situation of kind of how it's been going. And of course, if you're not building something that's profitable right now, you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out why you're not building something that's profitable. Like, you just have to go do that. Is it an issue with, you actually just running your business and not managing your money the right way? Is it an issue with sales? Those are going to be your two big things that it's going to be an issue with, right? Because when you think about profit, it's sales and it's expenses. So it's going to be one of those two. But once you figured that out about just like, are you building something profitable? What we really want to do is then we start thinking about, okay, well, what is growth? What are investors really looking for? And I say this because you can really manage expenses. It's just cutting and managing and getting a return on investment of those expenses. But where investors are always interested in is about growth. And what does growth come from? Growth comes from sales. Growth comes from value. Growth comes from clients. And so then we start thinking about, okay, well, clients and authority, those are very parallel. Doesn't mean that everybody that's part of your community is going to be a customer to you. Does not mean that, but it means the more authority that you can build and have a digital strategy that gets somebody from, oh, I found out about you. I'm very interested in what you do. Let me sign up for your stuff, even if it's a freebie. And then at one point, if you can nurture them and you have a solution for what they're looking for, and if you're a dispensary owner or a delivery driver, you definitely have a solution if they're very interested, right? And then you nurture that relationship, you continue to provide them value, and you understand over the course of a year what type of value you can get. And that, from a mathematical standpoint, when we think about sales and we think about KPIs, is the annual value of that client. So I want you to start retooling and rethinking about the way that you've been doing things. And if you have been a little bit, and it makes sense, right? I completely understand because most of the people I talk to are in this because it's a lot of just survival. Is holy shit, I haven't even really thought about next year, let alone 3 years, let alone 10 years. My friends, you're not alone. You're not alone at all. But that is the challenge because that's how you're going to start building something more. That is how you are going to start showing up in the long term. This is a massive industry, y'all, a massive industry. You have a place in it. And you're probably have been in it. And so it's just maintaining that place and holding as this industry wobbles and gets its feet, that you're holding your ground, you're continuing to build authority. So it's really important. And this is a shout out to check out the new website, cannabisbusinessminds.com. Check out the membership program, which is a mastermind, which is a monthly thing where I'm super dedicated to helping you grow your business, and it's affordable because I really want y'all to be successful. And a lot of times, if it's the one-on-one kind of coaching, it's a little bit too expensive for a lot of cannabis operators and entrepreneurs. And so this mastermind is an affordable solution to help you really start building more strategy in your business and in a way that is thinking about actually what's going on and with other entrepreneurs. So no shameless plug. This is a plug. I am so happy about it because being able to help you and being able to do this is very, very exciting. And this is the stuff that I love because if we can really build stuff together and be here for more than 10 years in this space, that is true success. So make sure that you check it out. So as you start thinking about short-term, long-term, that's step number one. And we'll do a lot of this stuff in the mastermind. Step number two, and this just goes with building your business plan. And this doesn't matter if you are supply chain, if you're ancillary, this does not matter. This is just fundamental precept of business. And it's not knowing your numbers, even though that's always the big one. It's you have got to get very, very, very clear on your target market. So freaking clear that I would challenge you that if you can't explain in design and in web building, we call it like a user profile, right? Because you might hear like an avatar, a target market. You might have many different customer segments that you're serving, but it's important that you look into those customer segments and you define in each of those a specific user that you really are serving. If you've, been operating, this is just an exercise that you can do. And you kind of want to get these user personas and start really looking at them and start really understanding their needs, their wants, especially their wants, but more their needs, right? And how you are serving them. And this is like building a very deep target market. What was like, when we think about Web 3.0, when we think about marketing 0.5, not even 1.0, a target market is so much more than demographics. You can't say, oh yeah, I'm just selling to women over 50 that live in Portland, Oregon. No, you can't. It's so much more. It's so much more about psychographics of what these people are looking for, the pains that they are actually having. And even though you might believe, and it's probably true, that your product, your service can benefit the entire world, you have to go deep. You have to get very specific. You have to niche down. They say the niche is in the riches. It's very true in the sense of your efforts for sales, your efforts for marketing are so tapped into the amount of work that you have done on your target market and understanding who you really are serving. It is absolutely fundamentally one of the most important things. And I'm going to give you an example. Y'all know I am, working on interesting things in Portugal, but one of the very interesting things that I am starting to build is much more interest in personal finance and wealth building from the money standpoint for sure, and the lifestyle standpoint as well, right? And there's so much to unpack there, but I'm writing a book and I'm very excited about the book. But I also love marketing. And I'm like, okay, well, who's the book for? And I started doing these bullet points a long time ago of like who the book's for. So I can write the book to that person. It's kind of, maybe marketing 1.5, let's say. But as I started developing, I'm going to launch another podcast. I just practice kind of talking to who I'm talking to on this new podcast. I thought to myself, my God, I don't know this person well enough. I don't know this user persona. I have to get deep into that. And the reason why is because when you can visualize, and visualization is so important in so much of what we do, but when you can visualize, if you are a solopreneur and you are responsible maybe for content, or if you are responsible for, some of your marketing materials, or you've hired some people, but you still know them and you're kind of owning that, it's critical that you really can talk to your ideal person, your ideal client. And I realized even with myself and this whole kind of book and this whole new site that I'm building, I was like, I got to get a little bit more clear. So my challenge to y'all, it is, a few months, not even a few months, like a month and a half away till the new year. If you want to see more improvements in your business, these two things, long-term, short-term strategy, what's your big play, and getting crystal clear on your target market are going to help you tremendously next year in 2023. And if you want some help, head on over to cannabisbusinessminds.com, go to membership, and get part of this mastermind community. Super affordable, super great. Would love to have you. My darlings, thank you so much. And I am so excited to see you in our next episode. Thanks so much for listening to this week's show. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed this, leave us a 5-star review. Make sure that you share this episode on your social media and tag us in the Instagram stories. You can find us wherever you go on social media. Just look up Cannabis Business Minds. Have an idea for the show or something that you want to talk about? Shoot us an email at podcast@cannabisbusinessminds.com.